deep in the misty mountains, where pine trees reach for the clouds and rivers sparkle in the morning sun. Our story begins. It is a tale of courage, compassion, and the deep connection between humans and wildlife. The main character, Alexei, is a forester who has dedicated his life to protecting the forests. Early one June morning, as fog gently enveloped the valley, Alexei emerged from his cabin on the edge of the forest. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of pine needles and wet earth. The singing of thrushes and the rustling of leaves in the light breeze created a harmony in which Alexei felt at home. He was in his early 30s, his face weathered from years of working in the forest, but his eyes shone with kindness and determination. His morning began with his usual rounds of the trails, checking for animal tracks and the condition of the sensors installed to monitor wildlife. After walking a couple of kilometers along the winding trail, Alexei froze when he heard a sound that broke the silence of the forest, a long, pain-filled howl. It was not a normal sound, but a cry that mixed despair and fear. Alexei's heart pounded. He knew that wolves, lynxes, and even rare bears lived in these forests. After checking his backpack, first aid kit, rope, flashlight, a small tranquilizer for emergencies, he headed toward the source of the howl, guided by instinct and his duty as a protector of nature. Pushing through thick blackberry bushes and ferns, Alexei came out onto a small clearing surrounded by old pine trees. There in the shade, he saw a she-wolf. Her gray fur was covered in dirt, and her hind paw was caught in a rusty trap, clearly left by poachers. The wolf was breathing heavily, her eyes full of fear and exhaustion, following Alexei's every move. She tried to growl, but the sound was weak, almost pleading. Alexei stopped, realizing that one wrong move could provoke her, despite her weakness. He stepped back, carefully observing the scene. Small footprints were visible next to the wolf. Her cubs were somewhere nearby. This discovery strengthened his resolve. If the wolf did not return to her cubs, they could starve to death or fall prey to predators. Alexei remembered the words of his grandfather, an old hunter. Nature is harsh, but it rewards those who act with their hearts. Alexei decided to free the wolf, knowing that it was dangerous. He began to speak softly, reassuringly. "Everything will be fine, I will help you." The wolf watched him, her growling subsiding as if she sensed his intentions. Examining the trap, Alexei realized that it was old, with a tight mechanism covered in rust. His fingers trembled as he tried to open the lock, but it would not budge. Time was running out, and the wolf was growing weaker. Her breathing became more and more ragged, and her eyes dimmed. There was a small set of tools in his backpack. Alexei took out a metal crowbar and a piece of sturdy branch to use as a lever. He worked slowly, trying not to touch the wounded paw. After long minutes of intense struggle with the mechanism, accompanied by the creaking of metal and the wolf's heavy breathing, the trap finally clicked and opened. The paw was free, but the wolf could not stand up. The wound was bleeding, and her strength was leaving her. Alexei realized that the wolf needed to be taken to a safe place. His hut was the nearest shelter, but carrying an adult wolf was no easy task. Using a rope, his jacket, and branches, he constructed a makeshift stretcher. With great difficulty and drenched in sweat, he dragged the wolf to the hut. There, he washed the wound with antiseptic, applied a bandage from the first aid kit, and gave her water from a flask. The wolf lay motionless, but her breathing became more even. Alexei knew she needed time, but thoughts of the cubs kept him awake. The next morning, after making sure that the wolf was stable, Alexei went to look for her cubs. Returning to the clearing, he studied the tracks. Small footprints led to the thickets by the stream, where water was murmuring. After walking about 3 kilometers, he heard faint whimpering. In a small burrow under the roots of an old elm tree, he found 3 wolf cubs. They huddled together, hungry and frightened, their fur damp with dew. Alexei carefully wrapped them in his flannel shirt, trying not to scare them even more, and carried them to the hut. When Alexei brought the cubs to the hut, their reunion with their mother was touching. The cubs squealed and rushed to the wolf, burying their faces in her fur. Despite her weakness, she licked them, as if to calm them down. Alexei watched this scene, feeling a lump in his throat turn into warmth in his chest. He knew he had done something important. He had saved a family that might have perished without him. The following days were filled with worries. Alexei caught fish in the stream and gathered berries to feed the she-wolf and her cubs. He contacted the local nature conservation service by radio and reported the situation. The rangers promised to arrive in a few days to assess the she-wolf's condition and decide whether she could be released. Meanwhile, Alexei continued to care for the family. The cubs, timid at first, began to play near the hut, chasing butterflies and dragging sticks. The wolf, regaining her strength, began to lift her head more often, her eyes now shining not only with fatigue, but also with gratitude. One cool morning, returning from fishing, Alexei noticed movement in the forest. It was a pack of wolves, 6 adult wolves, probably attracted by the smell of fish or the presence of a female wolf. His heart skipped a beat. The pack could be a threat to the weakened female wolf and her cubs. But to his surprise, the female wolf let out a low howl, and a large wolf with black and gray fur, apparently the leader, came closer. He showed no aggression, but only sniffed the air and lowered his head, as if acknowledging Alexei. Perhaps it was the she-wolf's pack, and they sensed that he was not an enemy. Alexei decided to strengthen their trust. He left some of the fish at the edge of the clearing and stepped back. The wolves cautiously approached, took the food, and retreated into the forest. This moment was a turning point. The pack accepted him as a friend, not a threat. 10 days later, the rangers arrived. They examined the female wolf, confirmed that her wound was healing, and decided that she was ready to return to the forest with her cubs. Alexei helped carry them to the edge of the forest, where the trees grew thicker. When the she-wolf stood up, slowly stepping on her still weak paw, the cubs followed her. At the edge of the clearing, she turned around, her golden eyes meeting Alexei's. It was a look full of silent gratitude that he would remember forever. Then the pack joined the wolf and led her and her cubs deep into the forest, and they disappeared into the shadows of the pine trees. This story changed Alexei. He became more active in working with nature conservation organizations, sharing his experiences at meetings with volunteers. His hut became a center where people came to learn from him and help patrol the forest. The story of the rescue of the wolf and her cubs spread throughout the foggy mountains, becoming a legend that inspired others. This story is about courage, kindness, and how one person can change the fate of wildlife. Alexei showed that even alone, you can do a lot if you act with your heart. Friends, if this story touched you, share it to inspire others to protect nature. If you like this story, like it, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell. There are even more heartwarming stories ahead from the world of nature, people, and their struggle for life.